You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by James and Callum. How you going, boys?
Not bad.
Not bad.
We're continuing our coverage of the Melbourne International Film Festival for 2023,
Yes.
the 71st edition.
Yes.
Last week, we rattled off a list of movies that we'd watched. And
We
we're
did
gonna
our
continue doing the
first
same.
10 out of all the movies. At the time, we had seen 19 movies at MIFF in total. And we did the first 10 last week. So if you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you listen to that first, because this is part 2. We snuck in a little cheeky screener since last week. So now we've got another 10 movies. So it's actually 20 movies we saw overall in the whole of MIFF. So now we're going to talk about the second half of those.
Yes. So we're going to start with Birdeater.
Birdeater.
I forget the director's names. It was
Jack Clark and Jim.
I knew the first names, but I wasn't sure on the surnames without looking it up.
Damn my...
Jim Weir? Is it Weir?
Jim Weir, yeah.
Birdeater's another Australian movie. Initially on the MIFF program, it was billed as a horror, and I think that's where we saw it.
Yeah, so because we were choosing movies without knowing anything about them,
We just
just
saw
going
vague,
off, like
yeah.
I saw an image, I was like, that looks cool, it's Australian, like horror thriller, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it might have said horror on the MIFF
yeah,
description.
It did initially, and they got changed.
And then so we picked it. We didn't really know anything about it, and we were watching it and being like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like the movie's going, and we're like,
this isn't a horror.
this is
movie.
what? Yeah, it's just like,
I mean,
but it kind of is.
It comes close to it, but not in the way we were expecting.
Yeah,
Psychological thriller, yeah.
yeah, it's more like
Yeah.
a psychological thriller, but
Black
it's also a black
comedy,
comedy.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And we were just like, and it ended, and like I think we can all agree it was like one of our favorites of the
Yeah.
whole.
It's in the top 5, definitely.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Especially because it was so unexpected.
Yeah.
Hashtag Dylan for life.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Is his name Dylan? Oh my god, I can't remember.
It's Daryl?
It's D.
Daryl or
no,
Dylan?
no. I think it's Dylan. Yeah.
It's a D name.
Yeah, D name.
Um,
But we talk about So the screening we saw at the Kino had a Q&A with the cast and crew, which is really good because they got to kind of fill in a lot of the behind the scenes and the production of it.
We next week we will have an interview with the directors of this movie, which we
One of the directors. Yeah.
which we pre-recorded, and this Q&A, we're sitting there thinking like they answered all our damn questions.
Yeah. So we had a it is Dylan. It was but we talk about that in the interview.
Yeah.
So we had a interview set up with the directors of Birdeater, two young guys from Sydney, Jack and Jim, and then we saw the movie and they had the Q&A and they basically answered everything.
Yeah.
But then also we were like, well, that wasn't recorded, so
yeah. So we're just gonna ask the same questions again.
so we're going to go over, and of course we asked other questions, and we won't go into all of Birdeater now, but
there's a lot of it we talk about again.
Yeah.
It deserves a longer discussion.
Yeah, next week we'll sort of talk about that a bit more, not spoil anything because it still hasn't come out yet, and then we'll play our pre-recorded interview with Jack. So we'll leave that for next week. The only thing is, I was on the Cinema Nova website the other day, and I saw that it's getting a release on November 23rd.
Okay.
So definitely check out Birdeater. We'll talk about it more next week,
Yeah.
and you can hear our interview with one of the directors. But yeah, I just thought I'd put that in here as well because
definitely
it's always good
Yeah.
when these movies have a wide
Go and
release.
support good Australian movies.
Yeah.
So we're not skipping over Birdeater, but we're also it's going to be explored more next week.
Yes.
But
In our Birdeater special.
and our Birdeater special. Suffice it to say before we move on that it is a good movie.
It's very good.
Please go and see it if you have the chance.
And again, like with all the movies, don't look up anything about it.
no, you'll be better off.
Yeah.
Also,
Although the trailer, I don't think the trailer gives anything away.
Nothing
I didn't
massive.
watch the trailer, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the next film on our list was one of my most anticipated. The adults.
No. We watched.
No.
Sorry.
Time Bomb. You're using
the. I got the.
You got. Yeah,
screen,
you've only got the calendar.
So what was the next movie?
We snuck in another screener. We did Time Bomb Y2K, which was a documentary about the Millennium Bug, basically, and how people, and it's like archival footage about.
I don't know how young our listeners are, or if they're old, or we don't know the demographics.
I feel like they're around our age, most of them. Some
but I don't really remember the.
We were just sort of old enough to sort of remember, but not old enough to.
I remember the anticipation and the Y2K bug kind of thing. But I don't remember the night or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe.
I think I was just at my uncle's house.
I wish I remembered, but I don't.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
But the
listeners of a certain age.
But what's interesting about it is that whether you remember it or not, whether you were sort of caught up in the scare or not, or whether you weren't even born and you just want to learn about the history of it.
It's still interesting.
It's an interesting documentary. It's like archival footage about, how people were reacting to, oh no, the world's going to end on New Year's Eve or New Year's 2000.
I always assumed that the Y2K bug... obviously, I guess spoilers, but it's not really. It's like a.
Oh yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. I guess.
Although it might have, considering the reality we live in.
So I guess just spoiler warning, just in case. But
it's history.
Interesting. It's history. I didn't realize. I mostly assumed that the Y2K bug was just kind of over nothing. And I didn't realize the amount of work people actually put into updating computer systems.
True.
They go through that in the movie, the amount of work and effort people went into, say, correcting, the time and date sort of systems.
But
also, I don't know, mate, look, I think everything would have been fine without them doing that.
I think even if they didn't, it's probably would have been fine.
But still, the amount of effort people believed in it hard.
Yeah.
And they spent billions of dollars trying to
there was a presidential overseer person who was but
it was just interesting.
It's also a good look, a nostalgia look back at the pre 9/11 late 90s. It's at least
the vibe was different.
It's at least what the documentary presents. Obviously this is not the whole picture of the whole world at the time, but it's optimistic about technology. And wow, webcams were new, and it's wow, and it's just
I think as we were watching it, we were talking about how much hope and kind of almost
the
optimism.
The internet hadn't become the horror show that it is now.
Exactly.
It was just kind of this.
People seemed so and I know there are kind people everywhere, but everyone just seemed a lot more tolerant of other human beings in their general vicinity.
I think social media and anonymity made it very easy for people to
definitely
hate each
changed things.
Because I think there's less social anxiety that comes
also
through
people are going to be nice on camera.
Yeah, also keep in mind this is just a documentary about this time and this place and this topic. So obviously a lot of horrible stuff was happening at the time as well.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying in the documentary
it was fun to see just people getting along and being wow, isn't technology great? This is going to be so great for our kids and so on. Little did they know. But the documentary is really entertaining. We didn't get to see it at the cinema, but it was good that we got to.
It was an HBO documentary. Really made us feel privileged.
Yeah.
I guess any studio or network, it's we have access. But when this does come out, I assume it will eventually go to streaming because HBO is behind it.
It's a fun watch.
Definitely check it out. It's not very long, and it's whether you know about the Y2K bug or the phenomenon or whatever, the panic, whether you know about it or not, it's a interesting.
It's an interesting look back at it,
and it's also a fun little time capsule.
It's a specific point in history.
Yeah.
I guess it will come to binge, I assume, in Australia.
It's so
who knows
how
things are, but
it's interesting though because there's almost an element of there is an element of apocalypse about it, which I think is really interesting when you get into that subject of the hoarders and
the preppers,
which is and all these people spending their life. Some people spending their life savings to prepare for Y2K, which we can know. Watching now, we know it didn't happen. So what happened to those people?
That would be an interesting
the
sequel
TV show 7 Up?
spin-off. 7 Up.
It was like a British show where like they took some kids when they were 7.
Oh
or
yes,
whatever,
yes.
And then they revisit them
Every
like,
7 years or whatever they go.
I want like a version of that with this documentary. It's like, where were they in 2008?
That's one thing.
Where were they in?
That's one thing they didn't really focus on is like interviewing people, because it's mostly I think entirely archival footage.
Yeah.
Which is good in a way because it's like that time capsule of like
Preserves it.
this is all footage from the actual time. There's
Yeah.
no talking head like looking back on it.
No, yeah.
But yeah, that would be interesting to like someone who was fully invested in it and who spent all their life savings and who potentially ruined their life.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened to them?
Even like what happened to the Y2K czar. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably public knowledge. You could probably look him up.
Yeah, but it's
like,
just
where
in
are
the-
some of these interesting?
That would be a
characters?
different documentary. I guess they could do it. I mean, I wouldn't want them to do a series, but that's something they could. You know,
Yeah.
that's interesting as well.
Just a really good quality documentary. I think people should check it out if it's made available at
Yeah.
some point.
Definitely.
It'll be on. Actually, it's HBO. It'll be available at some point.
Hopefully,
we said it, hopefully
probably
it'll be on
go to
streaming
binge.
soon. Yeah.
Also, it was a nice during our viewing schedule. This was a nice change of pace as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
It
different.
also-
Something different. Something.
Was this our first documentary?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also gave us.
Because we had obviously limited, time and movies we could see. Like I was just like, let's ignore the documentaries. Not that documentaries, there's anything wrong with them, but it's like let's focus on like the cool narrative films that we vibe with.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it was good that we had the chance to see documentaries as well.
One unexpected benefit from this film is it gave us a good New Year's idea plan. So we
Kenny
found
G?
out that, on CNN, I think it was, in New York, in Times Square, as the countdown ball hit midnight or whatever, Kenny G played his jazz music.
Yeah.
So we thought, what a wonderful way to ring in the new year.
Yeah, so I made a note for New Year's Eve this year. It's
Kenny
like play
G.
Kenny G, Old Lang Syne. I had midnight.
So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
The next movie we saw, one of my most anticipated films, I think, Michael Cera's The Adults.
Well, Michael Cera starring in.
Yes,
it
Michael
wasn't
Cera's.
his-
He didn't.
So before that, because we had to go in the city early because that day we had like a double feature. We had The Adults at the Forum, and then we had Conann at the Hoyts at Melbourne Central. And it's just like we didn't really have time to eat, so it's like let's get in the city early, walk around, find a place to eat, and then we'll go watch the first movie. We're walking around, going to all these places. We were so early, most of them weren't even open for dinner yet. Going around, and there's a little cafe. It was like, let's go there. We kept walking down. And then we're walking back round to that cafe, and we walked past Bell's Hot Chicken on
Yes.
near
Right
Flinders
up
Street.
Bell's.
What a good choice.
Now, I've walked past this restaurant, I don't know how many times. And I always like, I have to go in there one day, and never do. And this time we were about to walk past, and we're like, you know what, let's go in.
It's chicken. How bad could it
Best decision we ever made
Yeah.
for the last
What a
couple of
cool
weeks.
restaurant.
Yeah.
You know?
And we met Alex later, and he was like, "Of course it's good." And we're just like, "We didn't know."
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's something that like
But he's way more city versed than us.
yeah, he's always in the
Yeah.
city. But I've been in the city, I've been past it a lot, and I just always not ignored it. But it's like I'll go there next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, their
but-
music bangs. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So their chicken, dope. Their service, dope. But their
They
playlist,
encouraged our problem drinking.
well, yeah. But their playlist, their music playlist, oh my god,
Yeah.
top
It
10.
was-
I was just like Shazamming, writing everything. Like
it was like funky, kind of.
yeah, like
rhythm.
Not
chill,
obnoxious.
Yeah,
yeah,
not obnoxious.
funky, yeah. But anyway, just sort of chucked that in because that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can listen to their radio on your phones at home.
Yeah, what is it? Bell's Hot Radio.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a live stream. So that's all we were listening to and
Yeah.
from MIFF for the rest of the week.
yeah.
Yeah, so then we saw The Adults, which, again, we tried not to know anything going into these films, but this one, we knew it was like a dramedy with Michael Cera.
Also, this
Basically-
one was going viral a little bit as well at the time. Like there were gifs and
I
stuff.
know
Yeah.
Callum
Yeah.
almost ruined something for me,
Yeah.
because he saw it.
Yeah, I won't repeat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, we didn't really know anything about it, but we know Michael Cera, dramedy, let's go see it. But also there was a buzz on the internet.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And we saw it and we all loved it. I don't really want to say anything about it.
It has the right kind
But-
of comedy that we enjoy.
Yeah,
It's very Noah Baumbach-ian in a way.
sort of, yeah.
It has those kinds of...
It's like family drama,
family
but
drama,
funny,
comedy vibes.
but also sad.
character-driven.
And cringe. A little
Lots
bit.
of cringe, like UK Office levels of
Yeah.
squirming, but nervous laughter.
Yeah.
A lot of nervous laughter. But after seeing it, I wanted to know how much of it was improvised because I feel like that's a large part of it.
Probably a fair bit because
Yeah.
there's like dancing, what looks to be almost improvisational dancing and kind of.
No, that
like-
was choreographed, surely, because they all did
No,
those.
yeah, I think those, but I think because
there are certain jokes that are feel improvised.
without giving too much away, it's about three adult siblings who sort of haven't seen each other in a while and sort of reunite in their hometown. And it's just about them sort of trying to get along, and Michael Cera's character is always just kind of like, oh, yeah, I got to go back home, trying to get out of it. And I think the relationship feels genuine because they're joking with each other and they have their inside jokes. And that makes it funnier because it's not a broad sense of humor. It's very specific to that family. And
a lot of
they seem to have their own like internal...
Yeah. And a lot of the jokes and kind of we'll call them routines are also almost barriers as well. So they're kind of really prevalent. They're
to
ways
the
the
outside,
siblings...
yeah, but that's what I appreciate about it is because us three in this room have our own in-jokes that if we started to say to other people or said on air, they would be like, you're crazy, what the hell are you talking about? Just the same way me and my family have our own little in-jokes and quotes we like to yell out at each other and songs we like to sing. Whereas if we did that in public, people would be like, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a large part of this movie is like when you do that sibling thing of like you have your own sort of in-joke or movie quote that you yell at each other, but other people are around or you try to do it to another person, it's the most cringiest thing ever and also the most funniest thing ever. So that's this movie. It's got that Noah Baumbach kind of drama, comedy drama, but improv-y kind of, but it doesn't feel broad. It's not a Judd Apatow comedy where it's like gross and whatever. It's a very small and quiet, and it's about these siblings.
And it's a very good time.
Yeah, we all liked it a
it's
lot.
hilarious.
I'd say The Adults is probably another one in my top 5 somewhere.
Who directed this one?
Very funny, full of heart. Definitely I'd go to watch it again if it came out.
It was directed by Dustin, a guy,
our local
Defa.
cinema.
Yeah, written and directed by Dustin Guy Defa. Defa? I don't know.
Careful, don't swear on the air, James.
Defa?
Well, my fingers.
Defa, you say?
Yeah, my fingers near the dump button.
Michael Cera is at this point one of the unparalleled masters of deadpan.
I think also because Michael Cera, a lot of people probably think of him as the super bad kind of sort of Judd Apatow-esque kind of American, but I think he in the last few years he's done mostly just weird, interesting things. Yeah, and this is more part of that, where it's not just a dumb. American.
But like
comedy.
he can't escape the type of comedy that I guess is associated with him altogether because he's so good at it.
No, but that's he's still a silly, funny guy, and obviously that comes across
awkward
in this movie.
comedy.
But this movie isn't a broad American.
Yeah, no, it's not like a mainstream comedy. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is people
it's still an indie film in a sense.
Yeah, but people might see him and go, "I know what the movie this is," but you don't know.
I watched I think it's a GQ or Variety or something. You know, they have those videos on YouTube. Where a guy goes back through his career and looks at all these movies. Yeah, and he was talking about that very thing where he's like, he said like. A movie like The Adults is very hard to make because everyone expects you to make a movie like
it's the same
The Avengers and
but it's also like the same with like Jonah Hill. It's like everyone's like he's the funny fat guy and then he lost weight and it's like he's the funny skinny guy and it's just like it's hard to escape.
Yeah. No, he's just talking from a filmmaking perspective. He's like
they don't sell as well anymore.
He's like it's just harder to make
100%.
movies like The Adults now because it's basically, there's very little mainstream comedies coming out.
We've talked about it a million times. Yeah, like
it's like they're all the they're in.
Well, you heard about,
Netflix is a dumping ground.
I
for
mean,
them,
yeah.
but-
case in point, right? You heard about the movie Bottoms?
Yeah, I wanted to see that.
That cost $11 million to make. It's only grossed $4 million. It's tanking at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Michael Cera is probably getting at, is that
It's also-
not, comedies are a risky proposition at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's not what the system's set up for.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
all the
it's
studios
also-
just want the $100 million action.
Yeah.
movies
Exactly,
now.
but it's just like, I want to go see Bombs, but I haven't had time,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to save money.
And a lot of the time
And
these
so-
days they don't get the wide release anyway, so you have
Exactly,
to go out of your way to
exactly.
travel as well.
Yeah, so it's like, it's also sometimes hard. I think we've talked about on the show. It's hard to support some of these films sometimes, where it's like, and I understand when people just want to go out to see the big movies because that's what you see on the big screen. But I think we're at a point now, which we've talked about many times on the show. The big movies that we want to see is stuff like Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible, Spider-Verse,
Barbie.
and Barbie too. Actual good films where you can see the budget and you can see the talent and you can see that it's not Marvel movies. As much as I like Marvel, we don't go to see. We don't go see. We don't go to the cinema to see those anymore. They're not worth it on the big screen.
So like
They're
movies
big,
like
flashy, but you can watch them on Disney Plus.
Exactly.
Who cares?
So if you get the chance, please go out of your way and see the adults if it comes to
And the adults is
cinema
a different thing. It's just it's a smaller indie film. But yeah,
movies like
definitely check it.
Scrapper and the adults, you kind of.
But all these films we've talked about,
Yeah,
it's like
go see them all.
are worth seeing. Yeah,
Yeah.
So we went from the ha-has
yeah.
and we went
To the what?
The chin
Defar?
stroking.
We went from the ha-has
we went
to
to Dustin Guy Defar to Defar.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, at the end of Conann, I was just in the thinker pose.
Yeah.
You know,
We went from ha-ha to ho-ho.
yeah,
Yeah.
a very
So
French movie.
this is the weirdest double feature we did at MIFF, but also maybe that we've ever done.
Ever will do.
Yeah. So we saw a very strange black and white, mostly black and white.
French reinterpretation of
Yeah.
Conan.
So
very
it's
loose.
very very
I
very
guess
loose reinterpretation of Conan the Barbarian, but with like a female Conan and mostly female characters.
And that's not to say that it's not a female Conan in the strictly the sense that it's an adaptation of.
No.
It's a woman who calls herself a barbarian that happens to be named Conan, and that's kind of
It's
the only
there's,
link.
there's a
really.
sword at one point.
That's
at
not
one, at one
important.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not.
And there's a woman called Sonia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
not
like
really
a
important
a nudge,
as
a
well.
wink to
Yeah.
the sword and sorcery fans.
yeah, it's not really an adaptation of Conan in any way.
It's
It's,
less-
just
it's
using Conan the Barbarian as a stepping point.
as a launch pad for
Yeah, to
crazy
do a
weird French
weird-
stuff.
Yeah.
I think we've finished and we turned to each other and it was like, it's very French.
Yeah.
Very weird, very French.
So the story is very chaotically told.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
conventional in any
No, there's
sense.
nothing conventional about it. The character, the actor who plays Conann, actually changes depending on the age during the
Yeah,
story.
so as she ages, it plays by different
which is
actors.
fine. But it also changes time periods, and it's like worlds basically.
Yeah,
It takes place over multiple different
they're just
interpretations
yeah.
of
It's
the
at
world
first they're
and
in a
its
fantasy
history.
world, and then like now we're in Brooklyn in the 90s, and
then-
now we're here. Now we're in the
Yeah.
future, and it's just like
And it
very
culminates. I'm not going to recount the events because
Yeah, no.
If you do watch it, go in blind because it's. Anyway, I can't understand it anyway. So good
yeah,
luck
go
trying to
in
explain it.
blind, but also go in knowing this is very weird, very arty.
If you're like me, you're excited to see some old-fashioned sword and sorcery. This movie
It's
will
not for you.
befuddle you.
yeah,
But I liked it anyway.
yeah, it's
I,
still a good time.
the most interesting character to me was the demon character.
Which demon?
Rainier?
Rainier,
the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dog man,
That's
yeah.
what demons look like apparently in the Conan universe.
Is that what they said?
Yeah, they're demons.
Well,
I don't.
I think it,
No, no,
without
like-
going into spoilers, I don't want to say what I think the character is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's more than one.
Yeah.
And they,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So they were the most interesting part. I think that was cool.
Mm.
The magical, foil or whatever.
Mm.
It's
It's
but
an interesting movie.
It culminates in the most
Visually-
bizarre banquet you'll ever see.
I'm
On
glad
film.
we ate before.
Visually, yeah.
I was hungry after.
Visually, it was really cool and really weird. and
of smoking.
also the sound. Yeah, well, very
Is
French.
French, yeah.
I think we saw it with Alex, and he was like, there wasn't enough wine, and I was like, no, weren't they just drinking wine at
He
the
didn't
end
know it
and
was.
smoking?
He didn't know it was French until he sat
Oh
down.
yeah. And I was just like, oh, they should have had, instead of swords, they should have had baguettes.
Yeah.
But yeah, visually it was really cool, really unconventional, and also the soundtrack was really cool, like this weird metal, industrial, weird. It kind of drags in the middle, but overall, like enjoyable. Even though I had no idea what was going on, and I'm not really sure what it's about.
I'm glad
Yeah,
we
you just
saw it
gotta-
on the big
It's a
screen.
visual, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a.
you just
it's
got to
a-
sit down and hold
let it
onto
happen.
the seat.
Yeah,
is-
strap yourself in and feel
It's
the
not,
G's.
again, this is not a conventional film, but it's an experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is a movie where you have to kind of just let it wash over you. Again, I don't know how much I would have enjoyed it if I was watching it on the TV and I could distract myself with other things.
Well,
right?
you get distracted easier than I do. Whereas
That's
I would
true, yeah.
definitely be like, I'm locked in.
Your attention span is better than
Yeah.
ours, but watching this in the cinema is probably the perfect place to watch it if you have attention difficulties.
Yeah. I will say.
Well, that's the best way to watch any movie if you
But
have,
especially
if you
a
have,
movie like this.
Yeah.
Quick correction: Rain is not a demon. They're categorized in the film as a hellhound, but they have
Okay.
magical powers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was just like, I don't
Yeah,
remember
adjacent
that.
thing.
But yeah, the movie's weird and it doesn't make sense, so that doesn't matter. Whatever. Yeah, it was written and directed by Bertrand Mandico. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of his other films, but
What was your favorite section of the film, just in terms of scenery and such?
Without going into
I
spoilers.
think the end banquet, quote unquote,
Yeah.
was pretty cool
That was the most
in its
extreme.
own gross
Yeah.
way. And also, like, the opening sorcery section is the most
That's it.
Conan-esque so it's like,
Yeah.
that's the... I think
also
the
like
middle
the-
in Brooklyn dragged, I think,
I
a bit.
I liked the intermission parts the most.
Yeah?
Like where you see the future in the crystal.
Oh, the
palace.
old lady,
I thought
yeah.
that was pretty cool. And
That was
good.
cool. That was like the future
That's like
sequence.
the way they weave the story together, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of vignettes
They
that
are,
they
yeah.
tie together.
And
through
Rainier is
story
like
conceit.
not the
thing that
narrator.
binds
but-
it all together.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's like going
the
across.
one who can travel through the different
Yeah.
vignettes.
But it's like pretty much every character is played by a woman in the movie, so there's
Yeah.
not a lot of, like, even the male characters are sometimes played by. So that is interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, really weird.
It was really cool. Like I said after we'd seen it, this is a movie where I'd be interested to look at bonus features if it ever came out.
Yeah,
I don't know if they would include bonus features with this film.
yeah. I don't know how much.
I'd
they
love
would.
what kind of deluxe edition accessories.
I
could it
do
ship
want to
with?
know. I'm curious just to see technically like how they
Yeah.
shot it, like the lenses, because it's kind of a weird looking movie. So
What would they throw in the deluxe edition of a collector's set?
with like trinkets and
Yeah.
stuff. Oh,
Ooh,
That's a weird one to think
yeah,
about.
I'm not sure.
yeah. There's no real important object
I mean,
in the
I'll
movie.
take a
is
little
there?
figurine of the car or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, some little action figures might be interesting.
Rainier.
Yeah.
Rainier with flash photography.
Yeah,
If it's an
camera.
expensive set, Rainier's jacket.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's another thing about
The
this movie is
costume design's
time.
really nice.
Time means nothing. So even
Yeah.
though it's like, yeah, we say it's based on kind of, it's not a fantasy, it's not a sci-fi, it's not a contemporary. It's,
It's
like
an art film.
it's an art. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's French.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's-
French.
yeah.
Genre French.
Yeah.
Asterisk.
Yeah.
Do go watch it if you get the opportunity.
If you like weird movies
it's probably not going to.
and you're not, and you're not squirmish.
Yeah.
I can't
or-
imagine it will get a hugely wide release.
No, definitely.
But
not.
check it out on streaming, which it hopefully will end up somewhere.
I don't know. Yeah,
Who knows? It might end up on Tubi or something like that.
I don't think it's that type of movie.
No.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll be right back after this quick break. Yeah, we're back on the Tuesday review talking our MIFF 2023 experience. So after Conann, our next movie was Earthwormer. Now, Callum had given up. He was very
At this
sick.
point,
Giving
at this
up
point,
is phrasing it a certain way.
Yeah,
So
Callum was sick.
we're like more than a week in. It's what our 1, 2,
We're
3,
essentially almost 2
4,
weeks.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's like our 14th movie, roughly. That's probably wrong, but it's like, yeah, we're like
We're almost
more than a, yeah, more than yeah, we're pretty much almost done. And Callum tapped out. He's just like, I'm too sick to come.
I couldn't help. I was terribly sick.
Yeah, and so we got my friend Ed to take the ticket, and we went and we saw Earth Mama, which again, another movie I didn't really know anything about. I think I had seen part of a trailer, or I'd seen some images, and I heard some buzz that it was good.
This is one of the movies that they showed pretty much every time with the MIFF
when they do the pre-roll like opening thing about like other movies playing at MIFF and like director introductions, they would play this a lot.
So we saw a trailer pretty much every time we.
But
saw
that wasn't really a trailer.
It was
that
like
was just like the director introducing her.
Yeah, and you saw little clips.
Yeah, but nothing really. Yeah.
So we had an idea about what it was about because she introduced the film in the
sort of, yeah. But yeah, mostly
movie being about Gia.
Yeah, we didn't really know anything about it. We saw this at the Capitol. We went in,
and we were like, and there's a director. We didn't realize she was there for a Q&A.
So she was there for Q&A, but before the movie, you could see her sitting at the front. We're like, I think that's the director. And she introduced the film, and then we watched the movie.
Did you go up and be like, hey, what's up? Do you want to talk to the
camera? We were about to.
The vibe was
wrong. We were about to, but the vibe was wrong.
I think we talked about this last week.
The vibe was right with
the vibe was right with Biosphere.
Yeah,
the vibe was wrong with it.
Yeah, definitely.
We would have come across the way.
But so the movie finishes, and I turned to Ed and Nathan, and I'm like, big thumbs up. That was really good.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm really disappointed Callum didn't get to see that one because I think that Earth Mama is also one that's up there.
It's good.
It's hard to. I talked about it last week. It's hard to rank these films or say which ones. They're all good. But that I thought it was really good. And it was at A24?
Yes.
Yeah. So that at this point, when it's A24, you know you're going to get, even if you don't like the movie, you know you're going to get certain decent movie that's not, a waste of time.
A24 is pumping them out now.
Yeah, and now
by the big studios a week.
They're now the kings of the world, or kings of the, yeah. So, but yeah, Earth Mama, written directed by Savannah Leaf, who she had a Q&A afterwards, which was really good, really informative about how she came up with the film and whatever, and how it's personal to her experience growing up in America and whatever. And without giving too much away, it's about a young mother named Gia living in the Bay Area, in like near San Francisco, where Savannah is from, and it's like her struggle. Like she has 2 kids in foster care and another baby on the way, and it's basically like
it's about the struggles of the system.
The system, yeah. The American healthcare system is awful. The American everything system is awful. And how black people are treated is awful, and how poor people are treated is awful. And
it's a movie almost about, like, we'd say it's a movie, obviously it has a focus on, we'll say, the African American experience, but it's a larger movie about poverty.
Poverty, yeah, and just the way, like, systematic problems, not just systematic racism, but just how, you're set up to fail. But it's just like this kind of, like some of the movies we talked about earlier in last week's episode. It's like quiet, slow. I think it was shot on 16mm.
16mm film.
Yes. Yeah. So it's got this nice, soft, grainy look to it.
Pretty much as soon as it started, I'm just like, that's shot on film.
Yeah.
Because you can tell it's like it's hard to after you explain. Like what I mean? There's a difference.
Especially
between
16mm. It's extra soft and extra grainy. It's not.
It's like I can tell when it's digital and they've put a filter on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But so it looks really nice. A lot of the actors were like first time actors or non-actors, and so it has this really authentic, feel, like people from the area.
It feels authentic because it is authentic.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like these people have at least lived, or they know through someone else that experience. Like at the opening of the movie, it's like, you can't walk in my shoes.
And that woman was actually the real...
in a documentary that Savannah Leaf had made previous to this feature.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the message of the whole movie, basically, is you can't walk in my shoes. You don't know what it's like to be me. But you can walk beside me. You can hold my hand.
You can help me, yeah.
But you can't be me.
Yeah, you'll never know exactly what it's like.
Kind of the viewer is almost that person walking beside Gia.
Yeah.
Unable to help her or
You can sympathize
change
with
her path.
her.
You can sympathize with her, but ultimately you're just
At
a
the end of the
viewer.
day, you
Yeah.
can't make the hard decisions she has to make.
Yeah,
And I mean, you can
Good
judge.
and bad.
You can judge her if you want, but that's
Yeah.
on you. Whatever.
Yeah, good and bad. And
Yeah.
the movie kind of, it doesn't hold your hand in that way.
No,
It's,
I really liked how the movie, not to spoil it, but it doesn't have, there's no simple answer. There's no Deus Ex
Yeah.
Machina moment. There's no white savior. There's no
it's just
come to God moment.
But this is life.
It's
in
just
her
this is
community,
this is life. This is what happens in her community to people like her, and this is what she had to deal with. And you just watch her,
trying to
having to deal
overcome
with
her
this.
struggles.
And again, stylistically, it's very nice looking.
It has
and
some
nice sounding.
Even some surprising body horror moments for fans.
Well, that's all we'll say because
I'm
that's
not going into that
misleading,
anymore.
and I don't want to spoil anything. But
It's
also,
not misleading, man. It's a little.
no, it is misleading because you say that, and people are going to be like, "What is this movie?" But yeah, also the
She gives
soundtrack.
birth to the Earth.
Yeah, that's why it's called Earth Mama.
Yeah. Is this like a mother imitator?
The director's name is Savannah Leaf. Like she's like a forest.
Yeah, I'm assuming
spirit.
this movie, okay, as I was sick at the time. I'm assuming this is like Mother by
No,
Aronofsky.
No, nothing
I'm
like
not-
that.
no,
Nothing like
the
that.
movie is
It's
firmly.
very straight.
movie
I
is-
know
yeah.
it's not.
The
They're-
movie is firmly
Yeah.
grounded in reality.
Once you see it, you'll know what Nathan's talking about.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say anything else about
it's
it
like
to mislead
the
people.
movie is firmly grounded in reality, and
Yeah.
it is not a body horror movie.
No.
But there may
There
be
is
elements
maybe
of that.
one or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good movie, really nice looking, really nice sounding. There were some shots. They also, the director talked about in the Q&A of how, they did a lot of long takes and, one shot, kind of just moving. And like, obviously for
Necessity is the
certain
mother of invention.
yeah, but also certain actors, it's like their first time. And so,
like the
and-
children and
yeah, especially with the kids. So, and it just looked really good. And Savannah Leaf is one to watch. Definitely her next. This was her first feature film, so her next movie is highly anticipated.
Yeah. Again, you know what? Like, this is what we like to see: a smaller movie where it's like you haven't got $100 million to fix your mistakes.
But
It's
also, like,
I don't have to
you
be a
don't need
perfectionist.
to. Yeah, but you also, it's like it's not that there were mistakes that needed to be
No,
fixed.
that's
It's
not
just
what
like
I mean.
they shot it in a specific way, and she talked about like the DOP knew what he was doing,
Yeah.
and they
she had experienced talent around her.
Yeah. And also she's talented herself. And so, that's why A24 has the A24 stamp
Yeah.
of approval, because it's like,
But I guess what I mean is there's no reason, like there's no need for this movie to have had, 10,000 reshoots and like,
No.
you don't need that. I'm not saying the movie's not perfect. I'm not saying the movie like is or isn't perfect, but it's like there's that kind of thing of like, let's do it once.
it didn't need it didn't need a fake Hollywood polish,
Yeah, exactly.
because they knew what they were doing. They had limited time and resources, but they did it really well.
But again, sometimes that pressure it produces the diamonds.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, great movie. Probably one of the best of the festival, but again, it's hard to say that with all these movies.
So the next movie, again, Callum's still sick
Yeah.
for.
Callum's like, can't do it.
I managed to rope silent producer Christian in.
Yeah. Now,
Come
so
with
even though he's the silent producer of our show, which is a pop culture movie discussion show, he's silent on this show, but he's not very silent otherwise, and he's also not really a producer.
Yeah.
But also, he's not a very big movie guy. Like, he doesn't really like movies. He only goes to the movies because he wants to hang out like with the boys.
Yeah.
But it was like we didn't want to waste the ticket. So next movie we saw was Disco Boy, back at the Kino, and we're like, all right, silent producer Christian, come. And I think I liked this movie a lot more than Nathan did.
I liked it. No, I liked it. I wanted... So the movie is generally about, we'll say, the French Foreign Legion.
It's about, it's like
just broadly.
very right.
like-
Yeah, it's a Belarusian guy who like overstays his visa in Poland, skips over the border to France, and then joins the French Foreign Legion to become a French citizen. Because if you join the French Foreign Legion,
If you do
if you do 5
whatever it
years of
is,
service, you get to become a full French citizen.
and you get to change your name and do all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's great. I like this movie a lot. I just wanted there to be more about the French Foreign Legion.
Well, I don't think the movie is
it's
about
not about that. I just
Yeah.
wanted more of that.
That stuff was cool, and it was
Yeah.
really well done.
It was really well done. I want an entire movie about this guy's platoon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the kind of I really liked
That then it becomes a war movie, which this is
Yeah.
not a war movie.
No,
In fact, that aspect of it is very small. I think.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed. I like the concept of the French Foreign Legion, and I feel like we haven't really seen that much in cinema, at least in modern years.
Yeah, there's a bunch of old movies. I think there's like a Van Damme movie in the 90s. There might be other
like
more
good
modern
movies.
movies, but yeah, but there might be some, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not that familiar. But
But
yeah,
it was a good film. No, I liked it.
I really liked it. It's like really stylish, kind of neon-y, purpley kind of visuals, and most importantly, soundtrack was dope.
Yeah. Was
So-
it electronic.
Is it Vitalik, or he's a French like electronic artist, Vitalik, or is it Vitalik, because I guess it's French.
I think it's Vitalik.
Vitalik. We'll say
Yeah.
Vitalik because but yeah. So he did the soundtrack. It's this really cool synthy, electronic score, and so that's what I was really vibing with. Every track, and as soon as it finished, I went online and I saved the soundtrack, and now I was listening to that, all the time after. So yeah, it's a really cool, stylish movie. Written and directed by Giacomo Abruzzese. He's an Italian director, but it's a French language film starring is he a Polish guy or is he?
With this one, it's he's German.
Oh, he's born in Germany, yeah.
Franz Rogowski.
Rogowski, yeah. So, but it's an interesting kind of European vibe, that, and then his character, joins the French Foreign Legion so he can become a French citizen, and it's about him kind of finding himself and getting embroiled in violence while fighting overseas and in Africa, and how that affects him, and then he gets kind of embroiled in the kind of club scene in Paris, and it's mostly a vibe movie. There's not a lot of exposition or not heaps of dialogue. It's just like following this guy and getting a sense of like how he's dealing with certain trauma and certain aspects to his immigrant journey, if you want to call it that. I don't know if that's the best term. But yeah, my only problem with it is that it leads up to a certain point and then it ends, and I was like, oh, I feel like it's just getting going, and I wanted another hour of like, what's he gonna do now?
Yeah.
But I think the movie said what it wanted to say, and then
I think that's the other thing. I
Mic
wanted
drop.
more of this. I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Don't end it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, because I was like vibing to the music, and it ends with this massive kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but a music centric scene.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh yeah, and then it's like credits, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I wanted to go for another hour.
James wasn't finished Raven.
That's
Yeah.
it. I'm on the lead actor's filmography at the moment. He's got some bangers coming out soon, some big films. He's making his way
I
into
feel
the
like
mainstream.
I don't know for sure, but I feel like this is a type of movie where it got him noticed.
Yeah.
Because it's the movie's centered on him, and it's a very what's the word, reserved, quiet performance.
Yeah.
But he's got a presence, he's just like a skinny guy, but he's got like a certain presence to him. So
His next 3 movies are like major films. So he's possibly broke out. This is an actor to watch. His next movie is called Bird, which is an A24 British drama,
okay.
which we don't know much about. Then Wizards, which he is co-starring alongside Pete Davidson.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, an Australian-American film.
Even more interesting.
Yeah, and then he's in The Way of the Wind, which is an epic biblical drama.
Huh.
Written and directed by Terrence Malick.
Oh, wow.
So he's on his way.
I feel like, I think people probably saw him in this, and
So catch him now.
and they were like, "Oh, that guy's got something."
Yeah,
you know?
Then you
does.
can tell your friends, be like, I liked him before.
I liked him.
Yeah.
I liked him
Have
before.
you seen Disco Boy?
I liked him before Wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one was cool. I don't know if Callum would like it, but I think I
think Callum would like
as
it.
much as all the other MIFF movies, he
Yeah.
would dig aspects of it at least.
Yeah.
You know, he would like it as much as a lot of the other movies we've seen.
I can't explain why, but it almost gives me Apocalypse Now vibes.
It's definitely got those vibes, especially the war scenes.
Yeah, like it's kind of just that kind of.
It's
From what I've heard, it seems right up my alley.
It's that
Yeah.
psychedelic aspect to war where it's like, this is crazy, and it's
Yeah.
also a very stylish
And
movie.
it's just people trying to survive it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also it's got that slow kind of
Yeah.
meditative sort of aspect to it. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Disco Boy. No, the more I think about Disco Boy, the more I enjoy
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and even Christian said he liked it.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So yeah, what else we got? So after
So
this,
that was our last in cinema screening. So that was like our, the full 2 weeks in and out of the city, in and out of the movie theater. A couple of screeners here and there at home, but mostly like just 2 weeks of watching movies at the cinema, at different cinemas. And so it was good to have a rest.
yeah.
But it also meant like, back to work, back to the grind.
Yeah.
But luckily, MIFF doesn't end there.
So MIFF has the MIFF Play.
MIFF
and,
Play, which is their digital streaming service where...
Criticism to MIFF here.
Mm.
How do you have a streaming service which you're selling tickets, but you have limited availability? I'm watching it over the internet.
That was
Don't
annoying.
say there's seats.
Because I'm like to you guys, I'm like, we have to buy tickets for the MIFF Play because they have limited tickets. It's like, what?
From a business
it's digital streaming? Yeah.
I don't have a business degree, James. None of us here have business degrees.
No.
But I would assume if you're selling a product over the internet which doesn't cost you any actual space.
Yeah. It's the weirdest version of artificial scarcity I've ever heard.
Yeah. You're selling streaming, right? Which is free to you. Well, I guess you pay for upload bandwidth.
And it's...
Technically. But you're charging $20 or however much the ticket would cost, which will recoup the upload cost of your streaming. But...
And it's...
Why
it's not,
sell as many tickets as you can.
yeah, it's not like you're trying to hurry people up into buying tickets so that they don't miss the movie. It's like, but MIFF Play only goes for a week after the 2 weeks of normal MIFF. So it's like you still got a deadline of like you have to buy the tickets by the end of the week. So even though you don't have to worry about they're going to sell out by the end of the week, you still have to buy them in a time frame. Like it's not, I've got 2 years, I can buy it anytime. It's like, no, I got to buy them this week. So
the fact that they limit the amount of...
But anyway...
just whinge noted on the record.
Yeah, and it's probably not even their fault. It's probably something to do with the distributors.
But
and
whoever makes this decision...
More like dumb tributers.
Dumb tributers. Yeah.
Whoever makes this decision needs to have a good hard think
Yeah.
about what they're doing.
Whoever makes the decision, come on the show. We can talk about it, and you can
Defend
prove
your
us wrong.
position,
Yeah, because we honestly know nothing. So we finished our normal, MIFF screenings, and then we had a week of MIFF Play, where you can buy digital tickets to a digital streaming, and on the MIFF Play app, you can stream a movie to your television or your device, whatever you're watching on. So our first movie was called The Tuba Thieves. MIFF Play movie was The Tuba Thieves.
Which James liked.
Okay, yeah, so here's what's interesting. We're trying to pick what MIFF Play movie to watch. So not every movie that played at MIFF, like in cinema, is also at MIFF Play. So it's not if you missed it at MIFF, you can watch it. Some of them do have crossover, but a lot of them is just like, it's not all of them. So there's a limited roster of movies. And still, there's a lot to choose from. So we're like, what should we do? Do we want to watch a really long movie? Do we want to watch a shorter movie? Whatever. We're at home, but it's still something, we want to watch together and whatever. So we're going through the list, and I'm like, oh, this one sounds interesting. The Tuba Thieves.
It sounded cool on
Yeah,
paper.
and
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
read the? I'll read the. My phone's not loading. Can you read
I'll
the
read it
synopsis?
Drawing upon her experience with hearing loss, specifically navigating...
No. This one. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it up. Damn you, internet.
I'll get another one.
Yeah. This is great podcasting, great radio.
Yeah, we can edit around it.
It's all right. Okay, we'll find it.
Suffice it to
IMDb.
say,
Synopsis.
Yes.
we obtained one of
So,
these.
From
tickets.
2011 to 2013, tubas were stolen from Los Angeles high schools. This is not a story about thieves or missing tubas. Instead, it asks what it means to listen.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we all agree.
On
Like,
paper,
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
And we
That's-
thought it was a documentary because, it's about...
I mean, IMDb
that
also
relevant.
has it listed as a documentary drama.
Yeah. It is a docudrama, but it leans more heavily on the drama. But yeah, we thought it was a documentary about this strange occurrence of these tubas getting stolen from high school band classes. But even the synopsis says it's not really about that. So we're like, okay, let's watch.
So like it's about presumably it's about a community.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Where
know,
tubas were stolen.
exactly. And we all watched it, and I was just like, oh, it's really good. And you guys were like, eh.
I didn't vibe with it. I think this is a movie where you have to like the vibes.
I was vibing with it.
I didn't
100%.
vibe with it.
So-
some of it was interesting, but I just didn't pick it up. You know
Not
what
to
I mean?
sound like a dick, but we just talked about a few minutes ago about attention spans and how you guys
my attention was there.
No,
Because
I
were you
watched
on
the
your
whole
phone the whole time?
No,
Because
it
it's
was
not
like
a long
90
movie.
No, it was a 90-minute movie.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm gonna get it over. I'm
going
gonna
to trust you. I'm going to believe
No,
you.
don't. We watched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to, because what's interesting...
subtitled, yeah.
What's really
Yeah.
interesting about the movie, it's not a conventional documentary. There is some documentary footage, and there's also like narrative kind of fiction footage, and it's all blended together where you're not really sure what's true, what's not.
I mean,
And
the best part about the movie is that there's a guy called Nature Boy, and I liked wrestling. I mean, I
think-
get Ric Flair in there. I'm
yeah,
like, I'm happy.
but what I found interesting is that the director is I don't know if deaf but hard of hearing or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the correct term is.
Hearing impaired.
Yeah, and the movie is like mostly told through ASL, like American Sign
Yeah.
Language, and it's subtitled.
Yeah.
So that's really, but there's also it's a lot, like the synopsis says, it's about listening. So there's a lot of sound in the movie and sounds and stuff. But also you're watching a movie and it's like, it's got descriptive. So the subtitles are part of the,
I did
they're not
appreciate-
optional. Like they're part of the experience.
I did appreciate the decibel, like it's the
Yeah, and I thought that's why I really vibe with this movie, and I'll say it. I think it might be one of my favorites of the whole festival because I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
It's certainly unique.
Yeah, it's just like a movie where it's like it's very like atmospheric. You're just listening to sounds because a lot of the time the characters are talking, but with their hands, not with their mouths, and so the sound is just of the environment. And you've got the subtitles of what they're saying, but then you can hear what's going on. And then also it's got the audio description of what's happening in the soundscape. And then it's got like a decibel level. It's like, this is how much this sounds. And when the plane flies past, this is how much. I'm like, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
And, meanwhile, it's got like the tubas being stolen, which actually happened, I guess.
Which is
Actually, no, the
but-
best part of the movie...
which is pun intended background noise.
Yeah.
The best part of the movie,
But-
no, I take that back. The best part of the movie is the fact that they talk about how great Prince was.
Oh, yeah. See, that's why I thought you guys would like this. But yeah, it's like that's part of the background of it. But then you've got these characters, going about their lives. And it's all like, they're like deaf characters talking to each other. It's like, I'm like, this is really interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I just vibed with it. It's hard to explain without seeing it.
You can't really.
It's not. It's like a
for me,
docudrama. It's not a documentary, but it's also not a conventional like narrative film.
Yeah.
And there's not a real story, or it's just like vibes and atmosphere and sound and subtitles, and all the subtitles are color coded, and you know, they go in different points on the screen depending on what's happening. So I just thought it was an interesting movie that I hadn't really seen anything like that before.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, I was a bit disappointed we didn't get to see it at the actual cinema screening, because apparently they had a Q&A with the filmmakers or people involved, or you know, in that community. That was all in sign language, and then they had an interpreter. Like
I was gonna say, could we have got the most out of that?
Like,
someone who does
but it's like the opposite. Usually, it's a voice spoken Q&A, and then there might be a sign language interpreter. But this is the opposite. So it was just interesting to get a glimpse into that world.
I can appreciate that.
Where, you know, we're not really don't know much about.
Look, we're obviously doing an audio-based program. We're
exactly.
not part of that.
Yeah.
We're not part of that experience.
So I was a bit disappointed we didn't get to see that actually live Q&A. It's like of seeing you know, the sign language, and then getting a translator for us. You know, it's like the opposite. It was that's interesting. But yeah, interesting movie. But yeah, like out of all the hits we had, eventually there must have been one must have been. But personally,
it wasn't a bad film. I just wasn't picking up what it was putting down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But personally, I was like, I think this is one of the best ones. So I'm still on the streak of all MIFF good so far. Anyway,
I think the next movie on MIFF Play we got saw was it the one
it was the Face of the Jellyfish.
The Face of the Jellyfish.
That's slap.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this a lot more.
So this is interesting because I like this, but nowhere near as much as Tuba Thieves, whereas you guys were the opposite. Whereas like you guys were like, this is way better than Tuba Thieves. So you vibed with this movie.
It was also more conventional, which helps.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's conventional.
It's a pretty standard story.
Not really. It's very weird. Like it's very short. One, it's very short.
There are heaps of novels where a person gets in their face.
so it's an Argentinian film where a woman basically wakes up and she has a different face than she did her whole life.
It's like, and like, I just love that idea. It's like, how do you go existing when you look completely
But I think
different?
what's unconventional about it, it's only like an hour and 15 minutes, and there's no real conventional story. It's just her going about her life with now a different face. You don't even see the transformation. You don't even see what she looked like before, except in some photos. And it's just about how people treat her and how she has changed as a person. Even though we didn't know her before, she starts doing
her relationships
things.
are different, and she behaves in a way that she wouldn't have.
But I think why it's unconventional is that because it's so short and because it's like not really a sort of plot-driven story, there's also just a lot of nature shots and like trips to the aquarium for no reason, and like here's a weird fish face. And then there'll be bits of like, here's a old photograph from the 1920s, and here's what the face looked like, and then here's it morphed into a monkey, and then here's the monkey's face morphed.
It was great.
It was great, but it's not conventional. It's not conventional.
I disagree a bit in terms of the story, because I thought the story had a very solid beginning, middle, and end. It was told in a linear fashion with some arty shots. But
that's what I'm saying. It's not. It's vignetted in a unconventional style. So even though it's progressing in a linear fashion, it's told in a sort of episodic. Like, here's a weird interlude with a gorilla, documentary footage.
I guess.
And then here's another scene of the woman as she goes about her life, and it is still the story of like, you learn more about her, and she does things that she wouldn't have done before. Which is a certain point which I won't spoil, where I was like, oh, wow, she's not a great person. But also it's like, is this just because she changed her face and now she's like got a new lease on life? She's like, I can do whatever I want.
It kind of means that it's a movie about how much of you is based around what you look like and other people's
and how other
perceptions
people
of you.
treat you based on it. It's also an interesting movie because, it's like...
It's kind of about change, but it's like how much change do you put out into the world, and how much does the world change you?
Yeah.
Because it's like, like her boyfriend, for example, doesn't care, but she cares more, which changes the dynamic in their relationship.
Or maybe she cares that he doesn't care because it's like, well, why didn't you look me up? But
it's very Kafka.
It's very Kafkaesque, but what's also interesting is that it's very deadpan.
Yeah.
And it's funny in a very unfunny way. Like, I didn't laugh once, But the whole time I was like, this is kind of funny.
Yeah, that's
It's that
true.
weird
Yeah.
humor where it's just like
It's because
so
like,
deadpan.
It's
It's
stuff
surreal,
where
because
yeah.
it's a surreal, absurd
Yeah, that's
idea,
right. There's
and
a
they're
scene-
playing it sort of straight.
Yeah.
there's a scene where like she'll go to a doctor's and be like, my face is different, and
Yeah.
then
And they'll just be like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
then
yeah.
it's just like,
But
and she's
like-
like, what do I do? And they're like, nothing.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
there are other black comedies or deadpan humor movies where it's much funnier,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though it's very dark and deadpan. This is the most deadpan movie I've ever seen, where it's like I didn't laugh once, but also I'm like, this is
amazing.
kind of a darkly funny
There's a
movie.
vein of humor running through it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's just the idea itself is just strange and
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
Alrighty, go see this one if you get a chance. It is good. It's only like 70.
An hour is
70
like an
minutes,
hour and
75 minutes.
15, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a Black Mirror episode without the
Yeah,
technology.
almost.
It's like a
It's like
weird,
a Twilight Zone.
yeah, it's like a
episode.
weird art, more arty, yeah.
We're out of time for the live portion of the show, but we shall be back with more after this very quick break. You're back on the Tuesday review. Moving on, so we were
Yeah.
just talking about the Tuba Thieves, which has
Tuba
divided,
Thieves.
which has divided the studio,
Yeah, and then Face of
and
Jellyfish.
then Face of the Jellyfish,
Yeah.
which we
And
enjoyed a lot more.
our last MIFF Play movie was Millennium Mambo. Did you guys end up watching this?
No,
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
So this one's interesting because this one's a 2001 Taiwanese film. And I'd always heard of it, Millennium Mambo. It's a good movie. You have to watch it. It's an arty kind of weird movie. You have to watch it. And, you know, as a cinema lover, there are certain movies you hear about. It's like, one day I have to watch that. And I just never got around to it.
Mm.
And it was playing at this year's MIFF. There was a restoration of it. But I couldn't fit it into our cinema screenings. And I wasn't even planning to watch it at MIFF Play because I'm like, it's an older movie. We should pick something new.
you can
and
watch
different.
it elsewhere if you
Yeah,
want to see
but
it.
it's like we were getting right to the end of the week of the MIFF Play where, you know, once the tickets will no longer work
You
and
gotta
the,
pick
the
something,
stream will
yeah.
know it. And I was just like, you know what?
support a movie you want to see.
I really want to watch this movie.
and this is a good way to support it too.
Yeah. And now I can say I've finally seen it. So it's by a Taiwanese director, Ho Xiao Xian. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm pronouncing it.
Please correct us.
Yeah. And he's known for his kind of slow, contemplative, quiet, Taiwanese new wave kind of, I think he kind of sort of started that movement. And Millennium Mambo is one of his most famous, if not his most famous movie. And it's like hard to explain. It's like a slice of life, movie about a young woman living in, you know, Taipei, you know, in like 2001, and it's just about her going about her life. She's young, her boyfriend's a dropkick who doesn't have a job, and, you know, he's getting in trouble with the cops, and she's going to clubs, and it's got this really cool kind of early 2000s 90s dance, or late 90s dance music soundtrack, which, you know, is up my alley. And it's very, you know, very long takes, and it's just kind of the camera sits back, and I'm assuming there's a lot of improv and characters just kind of interacting, and it's just a slow kind of movie about her life and, you know, the stuff she deals with. What's interesting though is that a couple months ago, my friend David, he went to Taiwan, and he came back and he bought me a DVD from Taiwan, and it was by the same director, his earlier film, The Boys from Feng Kuei, from 1983.
Oh wow, so a bit of a difference
Yeah,
between
which I guess is having its 40-year anniversary,
Yeah.
I guess, coincidentally.
So how
But
many
yeah.
years? That's a lot of years between films.
No, that wasn't his last film.
Oh right, I thought you meant like
one of his
it was
earlier
a
movies.
previous
Oh,
movie
right,
he had
right,
made. No.
my bad.
He's been making
Yeah.
movies since like the
Yeah.
70s.
I thought it was like a gap between
No,
83 and
that would be
2001.
interesting. That would be really interesting. But yeah, I watched that before I saw Millennium Mambo, and was like, oh, this is an interesting sort of quiet, contemplative movie just about these young hoodlums getting into trouble, and then they go to the big city, and you know, they try to get a job, and, you know, there's no real story. It's just like a slice of life. These guys doing this thing. It's in the city. I don't think it was Taipei, but it was like a Taiwanese city. You know, and they're going about they're getting in trouble.
As boys do.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting movie. I can see why this is like a well-known sort of why it became a movement in Taiwan and why it sort of came about when it did, and why the director, was known for this. And then flash forward to Millennium Mambo, I'm like, oh, it's the same director. Cool. I didn't put two and two together. And yeah, it's got similar vibes. So I haven't seen any of his other movies, but assumedly this is the kind of movies he makes, of just like no real story, just slice of life. Like, here's people doing stuff. Let's follow them around. Camera just kind of sits back and lets things happen.
Which
kind
is
of
the way we like
very
it.
real, real documentary like. So that was an interesting experience. So I'm glad I finally got to watch Millennium Mambo, because it's been on my watch list.
Is that a movie focused on the turn of the millennium?
Not really, because it came out in 2001 and it's like sort of set in 2001.
Okay.
And the main character's like looking back on her life. So it's like, yes, it's that era, but there's no real
direct connection.
It's not like 1990. It's not December 1999. Yeah. It's just kind of like that.
It's not like Strange Days with that solid connection.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just that era, that turn of the century, turn of the millennium, just that kind of vibe, which it's cool.
It is
cool vibes. Mostly a vibes movie.
Yeah, but we like vibe movies.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys like it, but I think you'd appreciate some of it. Yeah.
Oh, look, I appreciate good filmmaking.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our final MIFF Play movie. So that was our 19 movies that we mentioned last week. And then we still got a couple of screeners that we were lucky enough to get access to in our capacity as the Tuesday Review. And I was like, you know what? Before our MIFF Part 2 episode, I'm going to sneak one more in. So did you guys watch this, Tommy Guns? No. Okay. So Tommy Guns was one I really wanted to see at the cinema in our normal MIFF run. And I just couldn't fit it in. At one point it was on there, then I had to take it off. At another point I had to put it back and then take it off again. And I was disappointed that I didn't get to see it. And I don't think it was playing at MIFF Play. And so luckily we were given a screener, so I was able to watch it. And this one, I really liked it. I think you guys might really like this one, so I think you should watch it if you get a chance. Without giving too much away.
Written and directed by Carlos Conquechao.
Yeah, it's
I apologize for my pronunciation.
Portuguese. Who directed Faces of Jellyfish? We didn't talk about them.
I shall have a look.
Yeah, Tommy Guns, I don't really want to give her away, but it's basically about young Portuguese soldiers and African colonialism. Fun. And so it's got vibes of Disco Boy. I think, Nathan, if you watch it, you'll definitely see parallels with Disco Boy.
Yes.
But it's also very different from Disco Boy. And it's not a conventional movie in the sense of like a drama about the Portuguese colonialism of Angola. It's more like the first half an hour happens and then the title card comes up and then the rest of the movie happens and it's like, oh, I didn't know that was this kind of movie.
Yeah.
So it kind of it gives you a little setup at the beginning. You think it's one kind of movie, soldiers in the 70s in Portuguese soldiers in Angola in the 70s, and then it cuts to other young soldiers in training, and you're not really sure what's going on, and it just changes, and it's got a slight surreal vibe. There's a movie I can compare it to, but I think that'll spoil it,
yeah.
So I won't compare it to, but I think you guys will dig it, so I recommend watching it. And yeah, I really like this one. It has very cool, like, how many movies do you see about Portuguese occupation of Angola?
It's novel. Yeah.
I haven't seen many movies about that.
Yeah.
So there's that element of it, but then there's like another element of it that's right up our alley, which I won't give away because it's a spoiler. But yeah, definitely check this one out. This and Disco Boy would make interesting
double feature.
Yeah.
The Face of the Jellyfish was directed by Melissa Liebenthal.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we gave everyone else a shout out, so didn't want to leave them out. Although Time Bomb Y2K, we didn't talk about who made that, did we?
No. Let's see.
Just throw that out there so it's in the...
Time Bomb Y2K was made by, although it's a hard...
Some very talented people.
Brian Becker and Marley McDonald.
Okay, cool. Shout out to them. Yeah. So that's it. 20 movies. Tommy Guns was the last one. At this point, Callum Nathan had checked out, and I was like, need more. We still.
I don't know how I would have done our initial schedule. I don't know how I would have got through.
Oh yeah, originally we had 2, 3, 4
like 40,
films a day,
like 40, 50 minutes.
and I was like to these guys, like, I'm doing it. If you guys tap out, that's fine, but I'm going to do it. But yeah, even I probably would have had to
struggle.
Yeah. But I think now we've got an idea of what how it is, what we can do in our capacity as Tuesday Review, what we have time for, between work and other responsibilities. And I'm hoping that next year we can do something even more, like get more interviews, talk to more people, to maybe take some footage, start a YouTube. So I think this was
a good exploratory kind of trip. Yeah. Like at least we've made communication with some people.
Yeah, we made some connections, got some email addresses.
Which might help us down the line for next year.
Exactly, yeah. So it's exciting time. I've we've been doing this show for a long time, and I've always been confused as to where it's going, why we're doing it.
Look, we've said this before. At the end of the day, we do this because we like hanging out. It gives us something
to do. I mean, we watch movies together and talk about them anyway. So it's like, we might as well record them. But at certain times, a lot of the times, I was like, why are we still doing this?
Because it's fun.
But I think now, it wasn't fun. That's the problem. But I think now we're starting to like, hey, let's make an actual go of this. Let's talk to people. Let's go to events. Let's record interviews and maybe, take photos and engage in social media more. So, yeah. Stay tuned because we have more stuff coming in regards to MIFF. We have next week, we have our Birdeater sort of
semi-special,
semi-review, spoiler-free review discussion, and also an interview with the writer and co-director of that movie. But also in October, we're going to PAX in our capacity as the Tuesday Review. So we're going to be talking to game developers, hopefully taking some footage and getting a YouTube started, interviewing people there, hopefully, and just, getting more content out there. There are some other conventions and events that I want to go to and potentially interview people and get more content there. And we also have a couple other interviews related to some other stuff that we have set up. So it's an exciting time. If you're an OG cousin, thank you very much for sticking around. I know me especially, I've kind of, always been a bit wishy-washy with like my feelings towards the show. But if you're a new cousin, thank you very much for tuning in and
strap in and feel the G's.
Yeah, if you haven't liked anything you've heard so far, don't worry, we got a lot better stuff coming. Lot more interviews upcoming. Filmmakers, game developers.
I was a bit not worried, but I'm always apprehensive when we get to do an interview with someone. I'm like, are we just going to come across, you always wonder how you come across with other people.
We'll talk about that next week with Birdeater, but
I think we did well.
I think we've interviewed filmmakers before, but this is different.
Again,
now.
It's different dynamic. When people are in the studio, you can
and
psychically size each other up a little bit more.
Also, we've for a long time over the years of the show, we've just kind of, and especially with the pandemic, it's like we're just kind of keeping the show as a hobby. It's like nothing's really going to come of it. We don't have a lot of time to spend outside of work and other commitments. But now we're like, hey, let's try to do as much as we can when we can.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully, in the next year or so, Tuesday Review will be a lot
That's it.
Beefier.
That's it. You know what? Maybe
more
someone
enjoyable.
will even start paying us.
Yeah, maybe we can actually start a Patreon instead of just joking about it and go, hey, we actually have...
We'll just get back on Twitter, get back on X.
No.
We'll do that and we'll get the 5 cents in ad revenue and we'll be like, paid media.
No, media. I'm not crawling back to Elon. He can go suck it. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully we're going to be more active on social media. If you're listening and you just want to reach out, or you want to know more about a MIFF movie, or you want to know more about MIFF, or you want to know more about anything,
message us on
just let us know.
Facebook, Threads, or Instagram.
At
Please
Tuesday Review AU.
like and share all of those.
Yes. Subscribe, rate, review, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get podcasts.
Let us know what you think. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.